Hi guys, this is Celia. A while back, we asked you to tell us what cramps your style when you're out enjoying nature, specifically any critters that freak you out when you just want to enjoy yourself. Maybe it's the way snakes slither, or it's the thought of a wasp sting. Well, one of you reached out with a story that's really relatable and inspiring, so we wanted to share it. And stay tuned for the next 2 episodes, because first we'll have tips from experts on dealing with these kinds of critter fears. And after that, we'll have an episode digging into the really annoying topic of ticks. If you have a question you want to ask for these episodes, like maybe it's something you wish you could ask a tick scientist about protecting yourself, shoot me your questions as an email or voice memo to celia@kcur.org. Now for today's show. Tracy Twombly's critter phobia is very specific, and it goes back at least as far as kindergarten.
This memory is strongly solidified in my mind.
A bunch of kids were standing on tables, and Tracy was one of them.
We had seen a spider, and I was terrified.
Someone said it was a really dangerous one.
And I don't know if this is the exact point when my arachnophobia developed, or if I already had it before then.
Tracy runs a native plant nursery for a living, and she recorded part of this story for us while working in her greenhouse. That's why you're hearing background sounds like this garden hose. So, Tracy grew up in Kansas, in the countryside.
I was always outside, I feel like. Playing in the barn was so much fun.
Loads of great memories, except for the spiders. Her bedroom was in a basement.
This damp, musty basement that has so many wolf spiders.
Sometimes she'd see one in her room, and so she'd go sleep in the living room instead. Unfortunately, the fact that spiders really freaked Tracy out was a source of amusement for people around her. She says she has the kind of family that are just super into teasing. So for example, this one time when she was a kid and they all camped in the yard.
We set up the tent in the backyard. The next day, one of my parents had trapped a wolf spider in an empty tennis ball container and told me that they found it crawling on me in the tent.
Now, that wasn't actually true, but it gave Tracy a really bad scare.
So I never wanted to camp out again, and I didn't until I was an adult.
Another time, one of her Christmas presents was a box with a fake wiggly spider in it. It scared her so bad when she opened it that she flung it across the room.
This was funny to everybody else, but this was incredibly traumatic to me.
Tracy does not think that anyone meant her any harm. But her family didn't get it that teasing and pranks were just amping up her fear and stress. Same goes for people outside her family. In high school, a boy put a spider on her shoulder.
I went into what I think most people maybe can relate to an extreme panic attack. I was hyperventilating. I was instantly cold and sweating. Yeah, I couldn't hardly breathe. I was just crying.
The boy later apologized. He hadn't realized how serious a fear could be. But even now, the memory of this incident is so vivid that it'll make her shake and shiver. And her phobia has held her back at times in life from things she really wanted to do. It put her on edge when she just wanted to relax on a woodland hike, made it hard some days to even walk into her greenhouse and do her job. Over the years, it finally reached a point where she felt like the anxiety and grief this phobia was causing her, it was just too much.
In my 30s, after over 3 decades with arachnophobia, I felt like I was over it. I didn't want to carry this part of me anymore.
And a series of things line up in Tracy's life that put her on a path to finally finding relief. From Harvest Public Media and KCUR Studios, you are listening to Up From Dust. I'm Celia Yopis Jepsen. Arachnophobia is one of the most common phobias out there. And as a culture, I gotta say, we seem bent on reinforcing it in the way we tease each other, in our pop culture, movies like Arachnophobia. But life's more fun without phobias. And Tracy's story shows how even if we're suffering from a really strong fear of a specific animal, there are ways to gradually feel less fear so we can enjoy the outdoors more. Today on Up From Dust, how Tracy got to the point of getting help, what it's been like for her, and how she's using her own experience to help the young'uns in her family enjoy being outdoors too. I want to acknowledge two things right off the bat here. First, spiders are a vital part of ecosystems. They benefit us, for example, by keeping insect populations in balance. And the vast majority of spiders cannot harm us. Second, Tracy knows all of this. She's a big nature lover. But the problem is, overcoming a phobia is more complicated than just knowing whether something's actually a danger.
I completely understand how irrational it is. That doesn't help me get over it.
Okay, let's dive back into her story. Getting teased so much about spiders as a kid, Tracy ended up with not one, but two fears. A fear of spiders and a pretty intense fear of people finding out about it.
Because that would make me vulnerable.
Vulnerable to more teasing, more traumatic pranks. So she started keeping it a secret from anyone who didn't already know. She went off to college, studied business, became an auditor. Fairly easy to keep her phobia a secret from most people because she was with them indoors, so not many spiders around, and if she did spot one, she'd just beat feet.
Usually I could get out of a situation before it got too bad.
People might notice she didn't like spiders, but they wouldn't see the full extent.
Most people didn't see me go into a full panic attack.
The worst situations were when she felt trapped near a spider, and she did what she could to avoid those. And sometimes that meant passing on experiences she would have liked to do.
In college, I actually avoided the opportunity to take a trip to Belize.
She said no when she found out that Central America is home to some pretty big spiders.
I decided that I couldn't put myself in that position, so I did not go on that trip.
So Tracy's coping mechanism has basically been try to avoid spider situations, obviously, but also try to avoid people seeing her in spider situations. But there's an important exception, Aaron, her husband. Tracy and Aaron met in college. At some point, he found out about the phobia. She can't remember how, but his reaction is what matters. He didn't laugh, pull pranks.
He just started removing them and not making a big deal out of it. And he's not the kind of person to make a big deal out of anything. He moves slowly and methodically in everything he does. And I think that really helped me stay calm.
Fast forward to 2010, Tracy and Aaron are hiking in Colorado in the Black Canyon of the Gunnison River.
It's just absolutely gorgeous. And there's some of these rocks that jut out into the river. We were sitting on the river and standing there for a while. When we turned to go off of this rock, there were spiders on the rock,
hanging out right where she needed to step to get back to land. She felt trapped. And remember, that's like a worst case scenario for her.
Fast flowing river. I couldn't take the river to get back to the trail.
It was terrifying, but she was with Aaron. And so at least she didn't have to hide these feelings of rising panic. And he understood that she was going through a thing.
He was patient. He was calm. And that patience went a long way.
Tracy doesn't remember how she got off the rock, but she did. And Aaron had her back.
In fact, it's even in our wedding vows that he'll always protect me from the spiders.
The The fact that Erin was this first person in Tracy's life who could know about her phobia and she could feel comfortable talking to him about her phobia, this was actually an important step toward eventually being able to talk to other people about it too. But that's not enough to resolve the phobia. And one day, something happened that made Tracy see her phobia in a different light.
The first time I realized that I have control over this disease.
Stay with us. We'll be back after this. So having Erin in Tracy's life, that was huge. But she was still dealing with severe arachnophobia.
It was to the point where I couldn't even say the word.
The word spider.
So we had a code word in our household. The code word was chicken. Like, there's a chicken over there. Can you go take care of the chicken?
Then, around when Tracy turns 30, two important things are unfolding. One involves a childhood dream about a forest. The other happens in a cornfield. Let's start there.
My in-laws have these big cornfields behind their house, and there's a river past the cornfields and some woods.
Tracy's out for a stroll with Erin and a bunch of his family, just checking out his childhood stomping grounds.
And my nephew was with us. He was probably only about 2 years old at the time. And I'm holding my nephew's hand to help stabilize him as he walks through this cornfield with us. And we are several feet into this cornfield when I realize that we are surrounded by arachnids.
There's no way out of the field without walking past spiders. That trapped feeling comes on, that feeling that triggers panic.
But I am holding my nephew's hand. And I know how horrible this disease is.
And she doesn't want to make this little child think spiders are super scary.
I do not want to wish this disease on anyone, especially someone I love as much as this little boy whose hand I'm holding. I just tell myself, I have to do this. I have to make it across here and pretend like I'm not scared. And we make it all the way across. We get across, and I am just shocked and amazed. I can't believe it.
It was the first time she'd felt in control of her phobia instead of feeling her phobia controlled her.
And at that moment I knew, okay, that means it's possible to get over this.
Okay, around the same time, the second thing going on is this. She and Erin, who's a software engineer, by the way, they decide to fulfill a dream he's had since he was a kid of planting trees, lots of them, reforesting somewhere where people had cut them down. Because growing up in Northeast Kansas,
He did a lot of woodworking with his grandpa, and he wanted to give back these resources that he used in his woodworking. He also saw a lot of the farmers up there taking down woodland for more cropland.
so Tracy and Erin searched for a place,
And we found it.
90 acres in rural Missouri. They bought it in 2012 and set about reforesting some parts and restoring other parts to prairie.
And during this process, I absolutely fell in love with the plants.
They were restoring thousands of native trees, flowers, and grasses to this land.
And I started learning a lot about our native plants, collecting seeds and growing it on my own.
Pretty soon, she's spending hours reading botany books, watching all these expert webinars.
So learning all about the different plant families and subfamilies and groups and identifying the differences between them.
She starts dreaming of opening a native plant nursery. And since she's an auditor who knows a thing or two about business, She goes through all the steps of market research, finds there's a surge of public interest in native plant gardening, yet very limited ways to actually get them in Kansas City. So she and Aaron end up moving to the city outskirts where they can build a greenhouse right next to their home and grow and sell plants. They call their nursery So Wild Natives. So with a W, like sowing seeds. And ideally, Tracy wants to work there part-time and keep her other job as an auditor part-time too. But that doesn't work out with her employer.
So I had to make a hard decision of, what do I do? Do I quit my job or do I quit my hobby? And I chose to quit my job.
She leaves her reliable office job, and So Wild Natives becomes her full-time work. Now, I just made that sound like a very smooth process. But remember Tracy's phobia. Switching career paths put her in direct daily tension with this fear, and in a way that she can't just walk away from whenever she sees a spider, because the nursery is a business. Like, she's got work to do.
I distinctly remember being in the greenhouse shortly after we built it and realizing just how many spiders live in greenhouses. It's a lot. And I was struggling. I was struggling to walk through the greenhouse and even just performing daily tasks.
In the mornings, there were often fresh spider webs.
It was enough to make me freak out, and honestly, some days not even want to go to the greenhouse.
Or she might be moving some plants.
And then I see a spider scurry under the tray of plants, and I was like, I can't do this. I didn't know what to do, actually, because I was conflicted with doing something I love, but having this fear of doing it and not making me not want to do it. And I didn't want that.
And this is when a friend of Tracy's reveals something that makes all the difference. Tracy's friend Marla is a therapist.
We had been pretty good friends for years, and she did not know about this fear of mine.
Because remember, Tracy was always trying to keep her phobia a secret from people. But Marla finally learns about the phobia and explains there's therapy for that.
I had no idea that it was possible to seek help.
This was the first time Tracy had heard that there is really effective treatment to help people with phobias.
And I was so ready at this point. The incident with my nephew made me realize it was possible. And my day-to-day in this new career that I was really looking forward to and wanting to enjoy, and knowing that how difficult it would be to enjoy with these ailments, I was ready.
So Tracy starts therapy, and in this section, you're going to hear her working through some difficult thoughts, specifically thoughts of death. So just a reminder here to take care of yourself. Tracy did a kind of therapy that works like this. You sit across from the therapist who taps your knees in a rhythmic pattern during the conversation. It's called EMDR, and some therapists use this combined tapping and conversation to help people unpack trauma.
She has me close my eyes, and we explore some of my memories about spiders,
recounting them step by step.
And she asked me questions. She asked me questions about what's happening in the scene, how I would respond to certain situations in that scene, maybe if they played out differently or what I did do.
And with each step, constantly asking, okay, what then?
What happens next? What happens then?
Asking where Tracy believes the spider encounter will lead.
What are you afraid will happen? And my response was, I'm afraid I'll die. And she said, and then what happens? And this huge release lifted from my shoulders. I may have cried, I don't remember. Because I just felt, oh my gosh, if I die, It's over. I no longer have this fear. It's gone.
So I called Tracy and asked her to explain this part of her story a bit more. She says this moment clarified for her what she's really scared of is dying, and talking about it made death less scary. It kind of crystallized for her that after we pass away, all these feelings are irrelevant, so why waste energy on them? And she could start to let go of the mental burden of fearing spiders and death. Okay, so that therapy was in 2017. Are you wondering how Tracy's doing today?
I'm feeling almost normal. I think most people kind of have a fear of spiders, and I feel like I do think now I have a fear and not a phobia.
The intensity has ratcheted way down. She can go about her work at this business that she and Aaron built without that feeling of being constantly on guard.
I don't think I usually approach it with the fear anymore. I thanked my friend a few times, and I really can't thank her enough for just how much easier it is now and how much more joy I have in it now without having that edge of fear tied to it. Even last night, I was mowing through here and I'm watching all of the wolf spiders run away from the mower and thinking how a decade ago, what my response would have been and how I probably would have freaked out. But yesterday, I just kept going. There's even been a few times where I've been able to say, like, get one on a piece of paper and take it outside, which is unbelievably huge. And every time I'm like, Aaron, did you see what I just did? I'm even trying to get on board with loving the little jumping spiders that everybody loves and thinks are so cute.
Like the little bold jumping spiders you might spot in your garden. Tracy says it's been a journey, not an overnight fix, and it's ongoing. She still won't camp in places with tarantulas, for example. But in therapy, she learned a bunch of great coping mechanisms for when that panicky feeling starts to hit. Like, for example, if she's caught suddenly right next to a spider, she sings.
That gives me enough time before I panic to leave the situation or give my mind more time to think more rationally.
Now she's even helping those around her.
This whole experience with arachnophobia has really helped me understand other people with fears.
She tries to be supportive.
I had a cousin's daughter who would come over and help us in the nursery about once a year.
And one time it rained so much that there were quite a few earthworms crawling around.
And she was terrified. My response to that was, oh, that's okay. There's one here. Let me get it for you. So I picked it up off the ground and took it in an opposite direction to take it out of the greenhouse. And then there were more. Oh, okay, yeah, I can get that for you. And it got to the point where she was picking them up and taking them outside.
She had a similar story with her niece, who was terrified of bumblebees, and there are a lot of bumblebees at Tracy's nursery. So Tracy would never push her niece to go near them.
But also at the same time showing her, yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with the bumblebees, so I'm going to be over here next to them, but you don't have to be. And I talked to the bumblebees, which honestly, I talked to the bumblebees anyway. So she saw me talking to these bumblebees. My sister said they also watched a bee movie later. That definitely also helped her fall more in love with these bees. And now we talk to bees. Her and I, we both talk to bees.
Thanks to Tracy Twombly for sharing her story with us. Quick reminder, we've got episodes coming up with expert tips on overcoming aversions to critters outdoors, and then also specifically about ticks. Now, we didn't get a chance in this episode to tell you that there's all sorts of cool things about spiders that make them pretty awesome. If you're curious, I recommend picking up the book 8-Legged Wonders by scientist James O'Hanlon. I'll link to it in the show notes, and also to a really fun video of peacock spiders doing their truly adorable mating dances. It's like they're doing disco semaphore. It's gonna give you a giggle. Go watch. Until next time, Up From Dust is a production of KCUR Studios and Harvest Public Media, created by the Kansas News Service. This episode was reported, written, and mixed by me, Celia Yobis-Jepsen. My editor is Mackenzie Martin. Special thanks to KPR in Lawrence for access to their studio. Music provided by David Condos, Tom Lonnie, Milktooth, and Blue Dot Sessions. As always, thanks for listening.